Hey, third grade, Mrs. Vance here. All right, for today, you need a pencil, an eraser, and a sheet of drawing paper. That's one of your thinner papers in your art kit. It's not a piece of sketchbook paper, okay? Do not rip out of your sketchbook. Use a thinner sheet of real art paper that was included in your kit. Go ahead and get your supplies, and we'll get ready to go. Okay, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to fold our paper in half. So I'm going to fold it in half, but I need to do it hot dog style, not hamburger style. So long and skinny like a pamphlet. Making sure your edges are meeting up and then going ahead and creasing nice and smoothly to have that be like that. And it doesn't matter which side you fold it or creased on, it'll still be hot dog style no matter what. Okay, so we want it long and skinny, so double check that you have folded your paper the right way before we move on. And then I am right-handed, so I'm going to work on my right side of the paper. If you are left-handed, it may be easier for you to work on your left side. However, I don't want you to get confused with what I'm doing. So you need to make that choice right now if you're just going to follow along with me. And that means your crease will be on the left and the open side on the right, just like a book. Okay, so think about how a book opens up. That's how we want your paper placed, okay? So for our portrait, we're actually only going to draw half. And we're going to use kind of an art magic trick to get our other half to the other side. Okay, so we're going to grab our pencil. And today it's all going to be about setting up your proportions. So we're going to make sure that our head is shaped correctly first before we do anything else. Okay, and when we do this, we're going to leave at least a couple inches at the top and a little bit more at the bottom. So I like to say kind of give me a thumbs up and kind of measure how much space your thumb is. And that's about how much space you're going to start from. So I'm going to make a little mark at the top. And then at the bottom, I like to say take your fingers and put them down there and then make a mark at the bottom. Okay, so we want more space on the bottom than we do on the top, but we want to still make sure that our head is going to take up the majority of our space on our paper. So double check that right now. About 1.5 inches to 2 inches on the top. And I've got about 2 to 3 inches on the bottom, okay? Definitely a little bit more space on the bottom than on the top. Then from there, I'm going to go back to my top, and I'm going to kind of, now notice that I'm doing sketchy lines. Remember, keep your lines nice and light, because you will probably need to do some erasing. And I'm going to stay nice and rounded up top. And then I'm going to come down. I'm leaving space on the side here. And now I'm going to start to angle down towards where my chin area will be. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and kind of clean this up and make sure that it's exactly how I want it. Nice and even, round at the top, more narrow at the bottom. It should kind of feel like a balloon, like a standard regular old balloon, where it's more round at the top and then it tapers off at the bottom. Remember, this is half. We're going to duplicate it so that we get another half. So I want you to visualize half of a head right here and say, does this feel right? Does it feel a little too round? I'm going to actually shave a little bit of stuff off the side. I feel like mine might be a little too wide. We don't want basketball-shaped heads. We want more balloon or egg-shaped heads. Okay? So look at mine right now. Look at yours. How does it look? Pause my video if you need to before we move on. We got to make sure that this is 100% correct before we move on. Normally, when I'm in class with you, I will go around and physically check every single person's head. I cannot do that this year. So we want to make sure that we are following right along, because I know that a lot of times in art I say, yeah, do it the way you want to do it. Well, when we're learning about proportions of the face and there's a lot of math involved, we've got to make sure that it's as exact as possible or something might not look right. Okay, moving on. Pause if you need to before we move on. All right, we're going to find out where middle is. So we're going to measure from the top of our head to our bottom of our head, and we're going to kind of visually slide together and find wherever our middle is. From there, we are going to draw a horizontal line, nice and light. This is going to be erased. It's a measurement line. So I want you to make yours even lighter than mine. I'm making it a little darker since it's on video. And it's going to go horizontal straight across. So we're splitting our head in half. The next step is that we're going to split it in half. Again, pause if you need to. We're going to go from that midway point to our chin area, and we're going to find halfway there. And we are going to draw a horizontal line across again. And we're going to repeat this step one more time. So from that line we just drew to the bottom of our chin, find the middle point, halfway. All these lines will be used to help us measure out the rest of our facial features, okay? So they're super, super important. All right, so double check that you've got one big section, okay? You've got a medium section, and then you've got two smaller sections down here. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do today is we are going to place in our eye. We're not going to add any details to our eye yet, but we are going to put a placeholder in for our eye. Now, eyes, mathematically, you can actually fit an eye between your two eyes visually. So think Cyclops in between, and then another eye, and then actually halves of another eye across there. So the way we kind of measure that out when we're drawing half of a face is that I like to say just put a finger down. Put a finger down and then measure on the outside of that finger. And that's basically where we're going to start our eye. And then we're going to draw a football shape. So that pointy oval-like shape. And we're going to make sure that if I were to draw another one, I could fit about half to 2/3 of an eye, but not a whole nother one. We want our eyes to be on the bigger side versus the smaller side. It looks really awkward when they're too small. When they're too big, you just tend to look a little bit more cartoon-like, but it still looks normal. When they're too small, it just looks disproportionate. So again, I placed one finger down. I marked where that edge of that finger was, and then I drew that pointed oval shape or football shape in between there. Now double check that mine is roughly about the same size as yours before we move on, because we're going to use this eyeball to measure out the other measurements before we start adding in our actual facial features. Okay, so from the inside corner of your eye, we are going to draw a dashed line above and below, nice and straight, parallel with the edge of the paper, down to this next line here. So again, dashed line up, dashed line down. You're going to do another dashed line, this time from the middle of your eye down to that bottom line that we drew right there. Okay, so kind of like you're crying. And then one more dashed line up here on the outside angle on the 45, so on a diagonal from the outside. So double check, you've got up and down from the inside corner of your eye here, you've got just down from the middle of the eye here, and you've got on a 45-degree angle upwards and outwards over here. This is where we are going to stop for today. Double check that all of your proportions look fantastic before we move on. Tomorrow we are going to add ears and noses and mouths, and we're going to get all of those facial features marked in tomorrow. All right, guys, awesome job. I cannot wait to see how you're doing.